I speak to you in the name of one God, holy and undivided Trinity. I once had the privilege of being on retreat for a few days at a beautiful place where there are acres of forests and fields all sloping down to a wide, wide river. There was pretty much no cell phone service and no internet connection at all. So I was forced to leave my security blankets behind. My computer, the constant checking of my cell phone, the Wawa with whatever I might want just down the street. I even left my family forced to trust that they could perhaps manage for a few days without my guidance. The first day, I went for a long walk down the carefully planned and installed road connecting the property to the outside world. Intended to last for years and carry many, many carloads of people to and fro, it had been neglected. And even though it had only been a few years since it was regularly patched and repaired, the blink of an eye in Earth time, already the land was reclaiming it. The long, black, ugly stripe of tar was dotted with hundreds of islands of green plants that pushed their way up from below, seeking light and air. The road surface that morning was covered with worms, seeking crevices where they could find soil to eat, life above meeting life below. Large craters had appeared where water had persistently worked on the road, crushing it into pebbles and carrying large pieces of it away. The automatic earth doing its thing. The illusion of permanence, of human control and ability to impose order, flowing down the hill to disappear into the constantly flowing river. Spending time close to the land is an eye-opener for those of us who spend most of our time in brick and mortar jungles, even beautiful ones. Those who always live close to the land, like farmers, know intimately, acutely, the intense beauty of golden grain blowing in the breeze, of chickens squawking as they lay their eggs, of summer rains gently watering the fields, and the joy of watching white woolly lambs frolicking on the hill. They know the rhythm of the seasons. And they also know that despite all their work, they are not really responsible for what grows. It is mystery. And they know intimately that it can all disappear in a flash. A hailstorm springs up out of nowhere and flattens the golden grain. The wind turns fierce and strips the fruit off trees. Foxes can get into hen houses, and you really can't blame them. They are just living into their foxness. An unexpected disease can race through the sheepfold, decimating it in a matter of days. Perhaps farmers, those living close to creation, to the heartbeat of life, have a deep understanding that permanency, control, and security are illusions. They trust the land enough to keep going, but they know much of their life is just not in their control. Perhaps more than others, they know that this world is not ours. We did not create it, and we are in control of neither growth nor harvest. My hunch is that paradoxically, this intimate knowledge may free them from anxiety, at least for those who don't pack it in and head to Boca. They must come to a place of acceptance that they are not in charge of the earth, even what is supposedly their own little piece of it, or they would lose their minds. Wendell Berry, in the brilliant poem that we just heard, written, I think, to those of us whose food comes on styrofoam trays wrapped in plastic, who have long forgotten that we are made of the same stuff as frogs, pine trees, and soil, forgotten what the heartbeat of creation sounds like, writes, "Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything made, be afraid to know your neighbors and to die." Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a world with which I am intimately familiar. A world where our worth is tied to the size of our house or our bank account. A world where we willingly hop onto the hamster wheel, seduced by the voice that tells us all our running will earn lots and lots of things, and those things will bring us security. A world that tells us that we are in control of our destiny, and we hear and believe and run with all our might, convinced that the more we acquire, the more secure we will be. We run driven by the demon of anxiety, knowing that the more we get, the harder we have to run, that however much we have acquired, we still need just a little more, and then we will be really secure. In this world, life's worth is always measured in comparison to others. Everyone is a competitor, and the goal is to win, even at the expense of others. A world where we look out for ourselves and our families and don't worry so much about the poor or the suffering. Give up on the common good. Give up on the environment too, for that matter. Above all, don't expect too much from life, because death always wins in the end. The good news is that on some perhaps very deep level, but on some level, we have a hunch that that's just not quite true. Somewhere, maybe deep within, but somewhere we hear the faint sound of a heartbeat, a voice that whispers, "You are of infinite worth, simply because you exist, because I created you. You are part of my own life. You are my beloved." It is the voice of the farmer, the mad farmer, who is not at all interested in the way of the world, who turns our world upside down and who sees good in and can bring good from anything. A farmer who is absolutely terrible at planning, at controlling outcomes, who seems to think the way to cultivate seeds is just to wildly fling them around, no preparation at all. No carefully plotting rows, no tending necessary. A farmer who is content, happy even, to let weeds and wheat grow side by side, and who tells the hired hand to sit down, take a deep breath, and chill out. Tells them they don't get to decide what's good and what is not. A farmer who recognizes that patience is critical, because seeds grow secretly for a long while before there is any evidence of growth, and that what happens under the earth to coax the seed to sprout is pretty much known only to God and the seed. And that is a good thing. Who knows that something tiny and insignificant like a mustard seed can eventually provide a haven for other creatures? A mad farmer who talks meekness in the face of raw power, hope in the midst of despair, and love in the midst of death, who seems to think that the secret to deep peace is giving everything away, even life itself, who knows that after the first Big Bang in which everything came into being, there was a second Big Bang in which a flash of resurrection light burst out of a tomb in the garden, brilliantly proclaiming that love and life ultimately triumph over death. That deeper than the power of death is the power of God. This farmer had the audacity, foolishness, madness to make creature co-creator. A farmer whose actions just do not compute. and who winks at us and calls us to follow, to be just as baffling to the world as the mad farmer is. Maybe we need to start small. Start by facing the back wall of the elevator rather than the doors, and smile at the people looking at you in confusion. Spend some time on your own in a beautiful place and introduce yourself to the grasses, the trees, and the animals that live there, and then give plenty of time and space for them to return the favor. Then perhaps move on to planting a few sequoias, followed by telling everyone you know that profit is what happens when leaves turn to mold and join the 2 inches of humus that builds every 1,000 years. Having done that, maybe you can move on to listening to Carry On, finally hearing the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. And having considered all the facts, throw back your head and laugh with joy. Perhaps we need to start by reminding ourselves that none of what we have is ours. We did not make it, and we are harvesting that which belongs to another. Start by practicing resurrection, seeing life in what the world sees as death, and death in what the world sees as life. Knowing that deep at the center of creation, of life itself, is the heartbeat of God, and then dancing with abandon to that rhythm. May it be so.